हरे कृष्ण बाबू जी, धन्यवाद पड़ा।
हरे कृष्ण। जय जय श्री चैतन्य, जय नित्यानंद, जय द्वैत चंद्र, जय गौर भक्त वृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य, जय नित्यानंद, जय द्वैत चंद्र, जय गौर भक्त वृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य, जय नित्यानंद, जय द्वैत चंद्र, जय गौर भक्त वृंद। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति सुपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपरिष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी नामिने नमः। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपरिष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष निवादि पाश्चात्य देश तारणे मुखम करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्येश्वरम्। ओम हरे कृष्ण. So we are continuing the discussion on the topic of devotional service, the instructions by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. And Lord Chaitanya is explaining at this particular juncture that we are the process of sadhana bhakti. Lord Chaitanya has emphasized the importance of bhakti as the topmost process. And there are at a high level three processes of bhakti: sadhana, bhava bhakti, and prem bhakti. Bhava bhakti and prem bhakti are very advanced stages. So Lord Chaitanya is trying to explain to Sanatana Goswami, when we say that somebody should practice devotional service, what exactly it is that one must do. So because the entry level into bhakti is sadhana bhakti, in very simple words, the bhakti of the sadhana or the practice of bhakti, regulated devotional service. Or rather, in more simple words, one can say devotional service in practice. Why practice? Because initially one's heart is not flowing with devotion to the Lord. One is convinced by faith and through scriptural intelligence that one must worship the Lord and surrender to the Lord. But one's love has not been awakened. So Lord Chaitanya is now explaining to Sanatana Goswami. He says, "Oh Sanatana, please listen from me. Now I will explain to you how one should, in a regulated manner, regulative means in a regulated, in a controlled way, in a disciplined way, execute the limbs of bhakti, which is sadhana bhakti." And what is this? This sadhana bhakti is the process by which one can attain love for Krishna. That means a person who is a sadhana bhakta has not yet attained love for Krishna. Our treasure, our end goal is to attain prema bhakti. And bhav is the preliminary stage of prem. It's like before the sun rises, there is dawn and there is light in the sky. So we know the sun is about to rise. We know it is. It's about to be morning. When we see the sky lit, but we don't see the sun. Just like bhav. But those are all spiritual in nature. They are coming from the soul. But while one has not yet come anywhere close to that, one is still through faith practicing bhakti. Practicing bhakti. With one's material body and material senses. When one practices bhakti with one's body, mind, senses in a regulated way, with the goal of awakening love for God, that process is known as sadhana bhakti. Or, in simple words, like what I mentioned, devotional service in practice. Prema is devotional service in pure love, or devotional service in perfection. Prema. But this is devotional service in practice. So all of us are in the devotional service in practice. It's a very long range. From the one who comes first day to Krishna consciousness and wants to practice, to people sometimes who are decades practicing, sometimes even lifetimes of practice. Maybe in sadhana bhakti. It's a long stage, long range. This point is not discussed here specifically, but elsewhere. But just for those who are familiar with Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there are the 9 stages of bhakti: Adau Shraddha, Tatha Sadhu Sangha, Tatha Anartha Nivritti. Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Bhava, Prema. So only the last 2 stages are corresponding to Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. All the way from Adau Shraddha up to Asakti is Sadhana Bhakti. Asakti means intense attachment to Krishna. Ruchi means great taste for Krishna consciousness. All of these are sadhana bhakti, steady faith. Most of us are struggling in the first 2, 3 stages. And Nishtha itself is very far away. One cannot even achieve Nishtha if one has not become free from all material desires. Maybe not all material desires, maybe that's an overstatement, but at least all gross material desires. All material desires one becomes free only at the stage of prem. But at least gross, greed, lust. When one is free, then one can attain strong faith, Nishtha. So sadhana bhakti is a marathon. It's a long marathon. Sometimes it may span multiple lives. Of course, by Lord Chaitanya's mercy and by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we are hopeful somehow we will get double, triple promotion and somehow we will make it. But anyway, that's a discussion for a different day. We'll not go into that topic. But suffice to mention again that we are talking about devotional service in practice. Prabhupada would often say, practice makes perfect. What does that mean? And this is especially true for devotional service. Why? One may say, Prabhu, I don't have any devotion for Krishna. Why you are forcing me that I must worship the deity, I must chant? I don't feel like chanting. What is the point? I have no devotion. When I feel devotion for Krishna, I will chant. But Lord Chaitanya is instructing Sanatan, no. You cannot reverse the cause and effect. You cannot say, when I feel devotion, I will chant. No, you have to chant by practice so that you will awaken your love for Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karoho Uday. Pure love for Krishna is actually already in the heart of every living entity. It is our constitutional nature. But because of our conditioning, it has now become dormant. And we have to activate it. How do we activate it? By acting as a devotee. Very simple words. When we act as a devotee and do the practice of bhakti, sadhana bhakti, then the devotion gets activated. Just like, in a matchstick, the fire is there in potential. When we rub the matchstick, the matchbox, the inner potential of the fire gets awakened. It catches fire. Prabhupada gives another more interesting example. It is just like a small child. We don't see the child walking as soon as he's born, but the small baby infant has the potential of walking within it. What does the small child, the small baby have to do to be able to walk? Does it have to attend, a course on Coursera, or go to LinkedIn Learning and so, okay, I have to put this step first, and I have to lift this leg, I have to do this? No. That natural ability is there, and a little bit of attempt that the child makes. Initially, he may fumble. Initially, he may fall down. With a little bit practice, the inner potential of walking becomes awakened. No extensive training, no extensive courses, no PhD in walking is needed to be able to walk. Why? Because the potential is already there. Sadhya kabu noy, not to be attained from outside. Shravana adi shuddha chitte, when the heart, because it's so covered over, that's why that potential is inactive, is cleansed through Shravana adi, through hearing, chanting, etc. And that what is that Shravan adi, etc. is what we are about to discuss. Practice of devotional service. Koroho uday. It will be awakened. So that's what now Sanatana Goswami is going to be instructed by Lord Chaitanya. What is that process of sadhana bhakti through which pure love is awakened? Correct? I'm sure all of you are here because we are all wanting that we will awaken that pure love. In fact, it is our frustration. Why I am not feeling love for Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya says sadhana bhakti is very, very important. But sadhana bhakti is not whimsical. So he gives a very systematic analysis of sadhana bhakti. First, he says sadhana bhakti is divided into two types. One is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and the other is Raga Anuga sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti means sadhana bhakti done according to Vidhi. Vidhi means rules and regulations. This, this. Schedule based, rule based. Vaidhi. And Raganuga means spontaneous. Spontaneously attracted to serving Krishna. Doesn't sound familiar, right? Does spontaneous sound more familiar or Vaidhi sound more familiar to us? Correct? I believe for most of us, or I can safely say all of us, with very less chance that I will make an error, most of us are on the stage of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi means we don't have a spontaneity. We need to be reminded, do this, do this, do this, do this. Prabhu, have you chanted your 16 rounds? Prabhu, did you read Bhagavatam today? Oh, you have to supposed to eat this, not supposed to eat this, do this, not. Spontaneous devotional service doesn't need active supervision. One is impelled to do this out of great eagerness and greed to serve Krishna. So the topic of spontaneous bhakti we will keep aside for now, and that's what Lord Chaitanya does. So initially he describes about Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and that's most relevant for us. We'll come to spontaneous devotional service a little later, but today we will focus on Vaidhi. Very simple thing, Lord Chaitanya says. Question 1, do you have spontaneous desire to serve Krishna? Answer, yes, no. Flowchart. Question 1. Yes, no. No. Okay, start with sadhana, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So 99.999% immediately go in that arrow in the flowchart. 0.0001 whose answer yes, honestly. That means they have been practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti for many lives, and probably already in their past life have attained spontaneity in devotional service. That's a very, very small process. Then go right. So that process we'll discuss a little later. Lord Chaitanya says, those who have not attained the platform of spontaneous attachment in devotional service, what they should do? They should follow Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. What is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti? In very simple words, Lord Chaitanya explains, to render devotional service under the strict guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, according to regulative principles mentioned in the scriptures, not whimsically doing something. This kind of bhakti, regulated under guidance of the spiritual master and which is aligned with scriptures, is known as Vaidhi Sadhana. And this is very important. It is not enough simply to follow Varnashram Dharma. Some people may say, oh, Prabhu, I am doing all my duties according to Varna and Ashram. I am a Brahmana, I am a Kshatriya, I am a Vaishya. I am doing all my duties. I am doing my profession honestly. All that is wonderful. That is aligning your material qualities, your activities according to your material qualities. But your material activities, even though nicely and dharmically done, according to your guna karma, are not going to awaken devotional service, because material activities are just that. They are material. They do not have an effect on the soul. They may at most get you higher elevated in the modes of nature through a gradual process. That's why simply Varnashram Dharma, Lord Chaitanya, in the previous conversation with Ramananda, he told, Eho Bahya. Varnashram Dharma is external. Varnashram Dharma by itself will not lead to devotional service, but the first step towards bhakti, not even directly bhakti, is if you do your Varnashram duties with a desire to please the Lord. Oh Lord, you have established the system, I want to do this for you. That's a good pre-qualification, not a qualification, pre-qualification. But anyway, Lord Chaitanya is not even coming there. He's saying, important that even if one is following Varnashram duties, one must specifically worship the Lord and practice devotional service. If one doesn't worship Vishnu and simply follows rules and regulations of Varnashram, one will simply become puffed up, thinking, I am great Brahmana, I am great this. Huh? Like Shukracharya, right? Very learned. We were discussing in the Bhagavatam class. But stopping Bali Maharaj from surrendering to Krishna, to Lord Vamana. You don't want that. Such people eventually fall down into a hellish condition. That is why, very important, whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or beyond the four, which means lower than the four, outcast, all categories must practice sadhana bhakti. And if you don't have spontaneous sadhana bhakti, then you must practice regulated sadhana bhakti. Now everybody will ask, Prabhu, wonderful, wonderful, thank you. I agree with you, I must practice. Please tell me, what is that practice? What is that practice? Because we need very clear directions. Tomorrow we will say, Prabhu, I am going for a jog, and that is my sadhana bhakti every morning. No, that is not sadhana. So how do we understand what is sadhana bhakti? Under the guidance of the Guru, based on scriptural injunctions. So first, Lord Chaitanya gives a very broad framework of what is the guiding principle for sadhana bhakti. Lord Chaitanya says a very nice statement, a very, very famous statement. स्मर्तव्य सततम विष्णु विस्मर्तव्य न जातुचित सर्वे विधि निषेधा स्यूर एतयोर एव किंकरः. Here Sanatan, there is only one guiding principle. Actually, two guiding principles, which actually mean the same thing. And what are the two guiding principles? Which guide all other limbs of bhakti? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So what is sadhana bhakti about? Sadhana bhakti is about performing activities with the senses in such a way that one will always remember Krishna, which means do's, which will help us remember Krishna, and don'ts, never forget Krishna. Don't do this, don't do this. If you do this, you will forget Krishna. Sarve vidhi nishedhyas, your all do's and don'ts. Vidhi means the practices, and don'ts means nishedh. Don't do this, don't do that. Etayor eva kinkara are subservient to this principle. So what Lord Chaitanya is going to tell Sanatana Goswami, I will going to give you a big list, but please understand the basic purpose of this entire list that I am going to give you now. 64 items of devotional service that I am going to give you now are all guided by these two principles. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, smartavya na jatuja. Always remember Vishnu, Krishna, never forget Vishnu, Krishna. So there may be so many practices which are helpful to remember Krishna, but I am going to mention the essential ones. This is what Lord Chaitanya tells Sanatana Goswami. So he starts the list. So now the list begins. So the remaining of this class is 64 items. I don't think we can complete 64 in 9 minutes. Well, let's see how far we get. The 64 are divided into 20 plus 44. The 20 out of the 64 are considered very basic. There are 10 do's and there are 10 don'ts. And the 10 do's and 10 don'ts, which are amongst the 64 items, are considered the most basic. Everyone must do that. Very, very basic. In fact, so basic that it is said Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I was listening to this class by Bhanumar. He said this is like the entry point. Very basic. They are not even practices, but they are almost like prerequisites. So let us see what are the 10 do's and the 10 don'ts. The first 20 items. Maybe the rest we can discuss in the next class. Actually, it is worth spending some time to understand these principles, because this is what, at the end of the day, Prabhu's and Mataji's, this is what we are expected to do for not just the next week, not just the next month, not just the next year, maybe for decades, maybe even for lifetimes. So, very important to understand these principles. Number one, Lord Chaitanya says, on the path of regulative devotional service, one must observe the following item. Number one must accept a bona fide spiritual master. This is so important. If one has not yet accepted, one must work towards accepting one. That's okay. It doesn't mean that one is not making any advancement yet if one has one. If one is in the association of devotees, then one is guided based on the conclusions of the bona fide spiritual master. That's okay. But one must accept such a bona fide spiritual master, not just saying, I accept. Facebook likes, follow on Facebook. No. One must accept initiation from him. One must serve him, and one must receive instructions from the spiritual master and make inquiries from him to learn about devotional service. 4 things. Already four limbs covered, which are all related to accepting Guru. Accept the heart, take formal initiation. In the formal initiation, the naam may be given, the mantra may be given, instructions are given. One must also render service. One must ask, inquire. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya padekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. The 4 limbs are summarized by this verse in the Bhagavad Gita. And 5th, one must follow not just the Guru, but the footsteps of the previous acharyas and follow the instructions which are given by the spiritual master. 5. The next steps, Lord Chaitanya tells Sanatana Goswami, are follows. One should be willing, this is a generic broad principle. whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness and whatever will please Krishna, one should do. Whatever will give Krishna satisfaction, one must be willing to accept. Whatever is displeasing to Krishna, one must be willing to give up. This is also a very broad and all-encompassing principle. That was number 6. Number 7, it is best to live in a place where Krishna has performed his pastimes. Either in a place like Vrindavan, Mathura, in the holy dham. If one cannot, then one can stay in a temple of Krishna. That's also a holy place. Prabhupada's advice is, if we cannot stay in the temple, make our home like a temple. That is how Grihasthas can also follow. 8th point, one should accept a profession, a means of livelihood without greed, which means one should work, whether it's a job or a business, whatever one is doing, do it dharmically and don't be excessively greedy. Just do enough so that whatever are your legitimate needs are well taken care of. 9th, one must fast on Ekadashi day. Very important. 10th, one should worship sacred items like the Dhatri tree, the banyan tree, the cows, the Brahmanas, and the Vaishnavas. So, up to this point, 10 items, they are the beginning aspects of devotional service. Basic things. Essentially, accepting the spiritual master and the general principle of accepting favorable things, rejecting, and honoring those things which are connected to the Lord. Now the next 10. The 11th item for those who are serious now are the 10 don'ts. First 10 were the 10 do's. Now the 10 don'ts come into picture. These are all preliminary. First thing in the don't list, number 11, one should avoid offenses. Offenses in devotional service and offenses to the holy name. Of course, offenses against devotional service are also of many categories actually. The verse actually says, aparada adi dure visarjana. Seva, nama, aparada. Seva and nam. Seva aparads and nam aparads. Especially it mentions here. Of course, there are other aparads which are extensions of seva aparads. You can call them dham aparads and you can call them other aparads, Vaishnava aparad and all that. But broadly, seva aparad and nam aparad. Be careful to avoid them. Then, item 12. Very important. Amongst the don'ts, Vaishnava Sangatyaga. Please be careful to give up the association of materialistic people, non-devotees. Now, this was something which initially I found it very hard to digest. And many people find it also very hard to digest. This, of course, is a very big topic. We will discuss it in due course. But this is actually so important for those who are serious in advancing in bhakti. In fact, Lord Chaitanya has told earlier, Asat Sangatyaga ei Vaishnava Achar. What is the essential behavior of a Vaishnava? He is very careful and discerning to avoid mixing and interacting with materialistic people. Of course, interacting and mixing doesn't mean that at work one cannot do one's professional duties. In the train, I will get into this train only if all devotees are there in this train. Or I will take a house in a building only where only devotees stay, then we will not get anything. Or we cannot even live in this world. So mixing here means actually close interactions, which means developing close friendships, sharing one's heart, sitting with them, chit-chatting, having food together, exchanging gifts. Especially the 6 loving exchanges must be avoided with materialistic people. Why? Because their materialistic tendency will rub off on us. It will pull us back in our devotion. We are trying by our sadhana, bhakti to go ahead, but if you don't follow this, don't. The asatsanga will actually sap our devotional energy down and make us materialistic in our mentality. So, giving up the association of non devotees. Number 13, one should not accept an unlimited number of disciples. So, this is a very interesting instruction. So, sometimes a person who is practicing Krishna consciousness wants a lot of followers. Even though one is not able to properly guide them, properly take care of them, one accepts a lot of followers or disciples based on material considerations. And Prabhupada warns accepting an unlimited number of disciples is very risky. Unless one is capable of guiding them properly and digesting the sins of the disciples, one must be very careful. Otherwise, the sins of the disciples will affect the Guru and the Guru will fall down or Guru will suffer. Worst case, fall down. Best case, suffer. Prabhupada says, I'm going to quote, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, a preacher has to accept many disciples to expand the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is risky because when a spiritual master accepts a disciple, he naturally accepts the disciples' sinful activities and their reactions. The disciple has to accept. Sometimes some people are very eager to be Guru. Oh, I want to be Guru, I want to be Guru. Why? Because they think, I'll be in control, I'll be worshipped. But Guru is serious business. You should be able to digest the poison of the sins of your disciples. Can you digest without affecting yourself? Are you at that advanced level? Prabhupada says, unless he is very powerful spiritually, he cannot assimilate all the sinful reactions of his disciples and has to suffer the consequences. Therefore, one is generally forbidden to accept many disciples. Okay, so this is one principle. That is principle number 13. 14. One should not be too eager to study too many books on philosophy. Or one should, Prabhupada said, not partially study books. Just to be able to quote a lot and appear as if one is very learned. Kala abhyasa vyakhyana varjiba. So we are not in the business of just doing oratory to give an impression and to impress others with our knowledge. Prabhupada says one should not just study a book just to pose oneself as a great scholar. Prabhupada says as far as devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement are concerned, 4 books are very important, and if one thoroughly understands them, that is adequate. What are they? Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrit, and Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. These 4 works, I am quoting Prabhupada, are sufficient for preaching purposes. They are adequate for the understanding of the philosophy and spreading of missionary activities all over the world. So Prabhupada is encouraging, study these books thoroughly. Sometimes what happens if one is reading too much, one possibility is that one himself gets bewildered and his own strong faith in Krishna consciousness is affected, because different authors give different opinions and they think, oh, why Prabhupada said like this Guru said like this Acharya said like this. Unless one is mature, one is not able to reconcile why different personalities are saying different things. So it requires spiritual maturity to be able to reconcile And sometimes some scriptures will give opinions which may seem a bit different from what the Bhagavatam says, so one may get confused. So Prabhupada's, Lord Chaitanya is advising, it's not really so necessary to do that. So focus on the bhakti literatures, and Prabhupada especially recommends these four. Lord Chaitanya doesn't recommend specific books. He says, we are not in the business of gathering too much knowledge. We are in the business of understanding the tattva. We are interested in three things. What is the prayojan? What is the sambandha? And what is the abhideya? What is my relationship with the Lord? How to execute that relationship? And what is the goal of life? So whatever is needed for us to be very clear in these three. And as per Prabhupada, four books are sufficient. What are the four? Gita, Bhagavad, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhakti Rasamrita. 15. The devotee should be equipoised, which means he should treat loss and gain equally. It's basically not being disturbed. 16. The devotee should not be overwhelmed by lamentation. Things go wrong and they will go wrong. It's not that if one becomes a devotee, then everything after that, and they lived happily ever after. That and they lived happily ever after only happens when we go to the spiritual world. From a material perspective. Even for the greatest of devotees, at an external level, because material nature does its own job under the directions of Krishna. And it will produce disease, it will produce various kinds of difficulties and challenges, even for the greatest of souls. No one is spared. So one should not be overwhelmed when lamentation. One understands. These are all coming because of my past sins. And Krishna is giving them to me just to help me develop the right consciousness of surrender to. So that's point number 16. 17. Na ha iba anya deva anya shastra nindana kariba. Won't criticize. Just because you are devotee, you got the highest. This is sometimes, new devotees, they get overexcited. The new converts, they think they are the best. They go around saying, oh, criticizing other devatas, criticizing all other paths and all other worship methods. You be happy that you got some special blessings and you came to know what is the highest. It is not necessary for you to worship the other devatas, but it is not your business to criticize them either. So, you are happy with Bhagavatam because that's the topmost of all scriptures. Don't go around condemning other scriptures. The other scriptures may be for people in different modes who are evolved at a particular level. Let them do their job. If you are able to help them, you help them, but don't go around criticizing scriptures and other sadhus. Vishnu Vaishnava Ninda. This especially you must be careful. Not just about criticizing others. That's one point. The next point, point 18, even more important to follow. Never offend Vishnu or Vaishnava. Point 18. Point 19, the devotee should avoid reading and studying Gramya Varta. Gramya Varta na Shuniba. Gramya Varta means gossip, materialistic topics. Prabhupada gives a very interesting translation. He doesn't just say ordinary talks. Prabhupada says, devotee should avoid reading or hearing newspapers, mundane books, novels which contain love stories between man and woman or other palatable subjects to the senses. So Prabhupada has this, he doesn't want to leave any room for speculation. What is ordinary talk? So Prabhupada is very explicit. Basically, novels and news and other things just what is enough for us to know about what is happening so that we can manage ourselves in the material world. We need to know some things. So that's okay. But one is not finding relish in these subjects. Especially not in romantic novels or in violent sagas or whatever, things like that. 19th and 20th, the last point for today. Manaha vakye prani matre udvegana diva. I told you about don't offend devatas and other scriptures. I told you respect Vaishnavas and uh, Vishnu. Now you will think, oh, that means the rest I can offend, is it? My neighbor next door, the dog outside on the street. No. Point number 20. Neither by mind or word should the devotee cause anxiety to any living entity. Prabhupada adds, regardless of how insignificant he may be. Sometimes a person rationalizes, says, Prabhu, he was a sinful person, he's a meat eater, he's an intoxication, so I did this to him. No, when did Yamaraj appoint you as his agent? Has Yamaraj given you an appointment letter? Prabhu, on behalf of me, you have to punish so and so. No, you don't go and do the police job. You have to be according to your qualities and your nature. You should be not unnecessarily disturbing anyone. Of course, if they come to disturb you, you have to protect yourself. But you don't go and disturb others. So Prabhupada, in his purport says, what I mentioned earlier, the first 10 items, now we have covered 20, are do's. The second 10 are don'ts. The first 10 give direct action. The second 10 items give direct action. So I'm going to stop here. So these are the 20 items. There are another 44 to go, which we'll discuss in the next class. Forgive me, I can't sit very long because my back is hurting. So I'm going to stop here. If there are any quick questions or comments, we can take for 5 minutes. Jai, thank you very much. So please read this. These are very important things. These 64 items actually have been described also in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in a fair amount of detail. But the original instructions were given to Sanatana Goswami by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai, Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, everyone.